All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for a battle of the browsers, and today I'm going to pit Ungoogled Chromium against a crowd favorite, Brave browser. Don't go anywhere. First off, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, but here's a quick overview of today's content. I think there's some pros and cons to Brave and other browsers like it that aim to put privacy at the forefront, but still make it convenient. I don't want to make it sound like I'm dragging Brave, not at all. I've used it for quite a while, but I keep finding myself coming back to Ungoogled Chromium. We'll talk about some of the fundamental differences between just Chromium and Brave first. First off, Chromium is an open source and free version of the base code that is used to create Google Chrome. They're different. Right? Chromium is the all blue logo. Chrome is the multicolored Google color palette logo of the circle with multiple sides to it and spinning around. It's sort of like a flywheel. But it's open source and free. It's actually fairly private, exactly as it is. Most people don't know that the Chromium codebase is quite good at protecting privacy. And it goes all the places on the internet that Google Chrome goes for the most part. It works very well with Chrome plugins. But that's about where the pros end for Chromium. Some problems in terms of privacy and security are that it still needs to call Google services on the back end of Chromium if it's just Chromium. Even though it's technically open source, it still leverages some of Google's services on the back end. That's problematic from a privacy perspective. It also needs to call Google services just to build the source code or to compile it from source. And it definitely could be more private in terms of the base functionality, some of the settings, some of the flags internally for that browser. And then, of course, some of the, without having to create new plugins or add plugins to get it functioning more privately, it could just be more private by default. And then with Brave, it's also fairly private. It works well with Chrome plugins. That's why many people use it is as a Chrome replacement. But there have been some controversy regarding the Brave ads. Some people are not a fan of the business model. Certainly some bloggers are not fans of the business model that Brave seeks to impose on users. Some people are not a fan if they're bloggers or if they're content creators on YouTube. They're not a fan of Brave cutting out some of the ad networks that they rely on to earn their money. And they don't believe that what Brave offers by way of a tokenized, centralized, and controlled token, basic attention token, they don't believe that it really applies to them, but that it really just positions Brave as a middleman. So to them, they believe that the basic attention token is pointless. Also, there's been some controversy regarding Brave's usage of the term open source or their treatment of the open source code base. In fact, Brave is based on Chromium. But when other projects have attempted to use the code base that Brave uses after they touch it, even though there's open source licensing that they're bound to, well, Brave does not take kindly to other projects, even for a short time, accidentally even, using their services, using their servers, or really even using their code base at all. So that's been a bit of a problem. They don't seem to play nicely with others. And then, of course, the implementation of Tor, the Onion router, or having a private window in Brave that uses Onion routing, it's not really safe. And even the Brave developers themselves have come out and said that if your life depended on it, if you were in a sensitive situation, such as a journalist or somebody who worked in a contentious area politically of the world, that their implementation of Tor is not really what you should use. So when it really counts, when it's life or death, Brave's version of Tor really isn't for you. Now, let's bring in Ungoogled Chromium into the mix. Ungoogled Chromium is, of course, open source and free. It's based on Chromium. It does not call Google services. It has more privacy options than regular Chromium, and in some cases, some privacy options that Brave does not have. It also runs Chrome plugins. It doesn't require Google services to compile or build the source code. And then there's no search interference, no forced ads, no ads removed that you don't want removed, and no crypto tokens forced on users. Nor are there any crypto wallets forced on users. If users want to install the IPFS helper plugin, they can, so that Web3 is available to them through Ungoogled Chromium. Same with crypto wallets like MetaMask. They run very well on Ungoogled Chromium. And in my personal experience, it seems to run faster than Brave. Of course, your mileage may vary. Of course, you may feel differently about it. There may be some objective testing for online site loading or internet speed that somehow proves that wrong. But just in my experience, I can't seem to get over how I keep coming back to Ungoogled Chromium because it just feels faster for me. All right, let's get into some of the meat and potatoes here. If you simply use DuckDuckGo or even Google, whatever search engine you want to use, and search for Ungoogled Chromium, the top result should be the GitHub repository by Eloston. So looking at that repository here, we can see it's a very active repository. GitHub is where most of the world's developers store their open source code, and you can find all of it here, some of it updated as recently as yesterday. But consistently, many of the parts that need to be updated are updated on a regular basis, such as the recent update to this version of Chromium as the base version that's being modified. A lot of the other components, of course, are several years old or several months old because they only need to write the scripts that remove the Google backend once, and then maybe update them if there are any massive changes to that code base, but not many have taken place. So after many audits and thousands of forks, many people now trust that this code base is pretty much Google free. It's exactly what it says it's supposed to be. But in their words, this was their objective in making Ungoogled Chromium. They wanted to get rid of any dependency on Google Web Services. They wanted to have the default Chromium experience just as close as possible so that it's not too strange for users to move from, say, Google Chrome or Brave. And they wanted to add some feature tweaks to improve the control that users had over the privacy and some of the other aspects with greater transparency and accessibility to those features. But you can also, from this side, from this repository, you can take a look at their downloads. I also kind of like, their motivation and philosophy, removing all code specific to Google Web Services, up to and including in the code base for Ungoogled Chromium. Any reference to google.com is stripped out. So if you were even just looking through the code base, you couldn't accidentally click on some kind of a link and go to google.com. They've done a phenomenal job, I think. They also get rid of any features that we would, in the privacy sphere, would call anti-features. So that as well. This is also the core code base that's used for the mobile browser Bromite, which I've become a huge fan of, and I strongly recommend over Brave browser on Android devices. But if we go to the downloads area here of the main GitHub page, we can see there are a couple of ways to handle it. You can get automated or maintained builds. You'll find something that is best for you. I'm not going to show you how to install this application. I'm just going to show you what I've done to make it more usable for me. Some groups have created what are called binaries. It's a simple way to install this application instead of having to compile it from source code. It's much, much faster. Compiling from source takes many hours. Binaries are much faster. If you're on Linux, of course, it's very easy to find this code base. Very easy indeed. You'll be able to get this installed on your computer in no time. Same with Windows and same with macOS. So don't be discouraged if you don't find it immediately. But what I like most about Ungoogled Chromium is you see up here in the upper right-hand corner, all of the plugins that I have running here. I've got a web highlighter, so I can highlight text if I'm preparing content for YouTube. By adjusting one of the flags, I can enter what's called reader mode. So when I click on that, it distills any website down into sort of a magazine style that's much easier for me to take a look at, much easier to parse through, and much faster to load. All of this text is now in RAM, so I don't have to worry about some of the tricks that modern day websites use that make it harder to scroll through actually than they used to be, because all of the front end text is now loaded in the browser. So small things like that that keep bringing me back to Ungoogled Chromium. Also, for dark modes that most people kind of really depend on, I've got the Dark Reader application installed, or the Dark Reader plugin installed. And you see, just like that, I've got dark mode enabled on any web page, whether it supports it or not. So that's key to my usage of this browser. Moving down the list, I've got various different Web3 plugins such as MetaMask. I've got Rabby, which I intend to put through its paces. I've got Kepler Wallet. I've got Soulflare. I've even got TronLink. because I need these wallets to connect with my hardware signing device in order to stay safe in Web3. And I feel much safer having these on a third-party, non-crypto affiliated browser. It makes me nervous when people say that they're putting all of their holdings into one of these wallets unprotected just into Brave browser, or putting their seed phrase or their private keys directly into Brave browser. I think that's a huge mistake. So many other plugins, such as Mailvelope, this lets me encrypt Gmail or any other web mail that I might want to log into. Again, just keeping my life simple so I can live my life more in the browser and less in dedicated applications. So all of these would run on a very lightweight Linux laptop without too much RAM. Noticing also that Ungoogled Chromium consumes less RAM. So open this up, look a little farther in. One of the hidden plugins that I have is uBlock Origin, TubeBuddy, because I'm on YouTube, and then something called the Chromium Web Store. The Chromium Web Store is essential for getting Ungoogled Chromium to work smoothly. And let me show you how that works. Going into settings, this is the back end. Unfortunately, it does not have a dark mode the way that Brave browser does, but we can overcome that, and I'm going to show you how I do this. But for right now, even with appearance, right, I can say, all right, well, you know, I really want, I can adjust things to show the bookmarks bar, I can have custom fonts, etc., use the classic theme, but that actually just makes it look worse. On Linux, I'd rather have it do the GTK theme. Now it matches my system dark mode, but the backgrounds here are not dark, and we'll overcome that. But going through some of these settings, autofill is by default turned off. This browser will not offer to save passwords for you. If I want that, I should install a third-party plugin like Bitwarden or KeePass or something else. And I think that should be true for any user. If your browser is offering to save passwords for you, then it's a vulnerability. You want a third party to do that for you. But the same is true of payment methods and addresses. By default, they're turned off. And I think on Brave browser, this should be the case, but it's not. You have to do this by yourself. As far as telling it when and how to clear your browsing data or cookies, you can tell, well, you'll have to tell Ungoogled Chromium that you want it to hold on to some of your browsing data if you want persistent login sessions on services like Gmail or other web services like social media platforms. So by default, it's so secure that it basically forgets where you've been between browsing sessions, which is very important. For convenience's sake, you might want to undo that setting, but for security's sake, if you know you need to stay secure, definitely don't undo that setting. But we're going to go over again why it is that I allow for persistent sessions. Okay, now here's a quick insert on why it is that I do keep the persistent sessions on Ungoogled Chromium. I'm going to jump to this view. Now, this is not the Twitter application. This is not the desktop Twitter application for Linux. This is actually just a special window of Ungoogled Chromium. Now, I can open it in Chromium, or check it out. I've got all of my plugins from the browser available in this view. So if I needed to, if there were some platform where I did need to interact with Web3, I could just turn it into an application. It's as simple as me going to any website, including, let's just see, what's a website I might want to normally go to. Let's go to thispersondoesnotexist.com. Let's just say I may want to be able to right click and save a new image of a fully synthesized human, right, that's been created by an AI every single day. The way I would do that is to simply drop down, go to more tools, and then click on create shortcut. And when I click on create shortcut, tell it to open as a window, and this person does not exist. All right, that's my new application. When I click on this person does not exist. Now, see again, full screen, and it gets rid of the browser address bar, turns it almost into like a web application. It looks like a web application. This is because of the back-end technology called Electron. And many applications, most people don't know, many applications that run on desktop computers are really just the Chromium engine under the hood, just like this. And so this is why I've allowed for persistent sessions in Ungoogled Chromium, but then increased the security in other ways to help decrease the amount of tracking that happens to me while I'm browsing. Last but not least, extensions. You'll notice I've got a lot of extensions installed here, but I've also got it listed as being in developer mode. That's only necessary at the first step. Developer mode is necessary to install the Chromium Web Store. And I've got a link to this, not Ungoogled Chromium, but here we go. This repository here by a developer named NeverDecaf called the Chromium Web Store. You'll need to download this extension and then go through this tutorial. Right? Go to Chrome, Flags, Extension, MIME Request Handling, and I'm going to go ahead and copy that, open a new tab, paste it in, and it'll bring us directly to this back-end setting for Ungoogled Chromium. And I can tell it, always prompt for install. You'll need to restart the browser after you've enabled that. I've also enabled reader mode, which is how I had that reader mode before, as well as some other things. But this is a custom flag that I've installed here. Once I have that set to always prompt for install, I will need to go to my extensions, turn on developer mode, install Chromium Web Store from NeverDecaf's GitHub repository. And once I do that and restart my browser, then anytime I go to the Chrome Web Store in order to install new extensions, they will install automatically, even if I'm not logged in to Google. How does it do that? Well, it'll download the extension and then, well, prompt for install. It'll just ask me if I want to install things because it will recognize that a Chrome extension is being downloaded. The Chrome Web Store, this plugin, also allows me to quickly click it, check for extensions because it is no longer connected directly through Google. So this plugin checks for me to see if any updates are needed. And if they are, it will fetch those updates for me and help keep Ungoogled Chromium, A, Google free, and B, up to date. So it's pretty awesome. I love that all of these are available here. Again, no secrets here. I've got multiple Web3 wallets, but I only use Web3 wallets that have a hardware signing device support system. I do not use Web3 wallets that are just standalone by themselves. One last setting that I think is important just to show is dark mode. Here we go. So there is a built-in dark mode if I really don't like how the settings are like this, a white background with black text. Because on regular websites, as you saw, like GitHub, I can always use Dark Reader to give me a dark mode option. But occasionally, I'll be in my settings menu and I may want this to be dark as well. The way I would do that is to go to this option here, Auto Dark Mode for Web Contents. And then go all the way down to Enabled with Selective Inversion of Everything. Now, once I do that, it's telling me I have to relaunch the browser. Let's see if I can get this to work without breaking my recording. Alrighty, it's gone ahead and launched again, but you see immediately the difference. Now, for better or for worse, it's going to do that for every website. So even if I turn off Dark Reader here, take a look at this. It's still in dark mode because I've got real time, on all the time, dark mode for every website, everywhere I go. This could be unsettling to some people. For me personally, I like to just have the option of dark mode, not always have it turned on. So I'm going to go back over, here we go, to Auto Dark Mode for Web Contents. Let me pop that text size up for you guys. I'm going to go back to just default, right? Default, relaunch, and again, reloads, and you see now the settings menus for everything within Ungoogled Chromium, they're going to be, all white like this, but I don't spend that much time in my settings menu or around my extensions menu. I do spend a lot more time on websites like GitHub and elsewhere on the internet, and now I can go ahead and if I really feel like a dark mode, I can just add that through Dark Reader. All right, I hope this was helpful. This is it covered a lot of ground with this particular video, but those are my reasons for enjoying Ungoogled Chromium over, well, both Chromium and Brave browser. Maybe you've got a different view of the browser wars, but tell me in the comments, do you like Brave browser? Do you use it? I don't have anything against it. I have used it in the past, and I don't mind it, but I keep finding that when I use Ungoogled Chromium, I just like it better. I just do. Over the long haul, I keep coming back to it and liking it more than Brave browser. But you tell me in the comments, what's your preference? Have you tried Ungoogled Chromium yet? And have you been able to use it to great advantage? Oh, you know what? Before I let you go, though, let me jump back in for one more thing. Go into my settings. I can always search settings. Here's a good one to know. You can search settings, and there we go. Into security, I've got the ability to choose my own secure DNS, and that's one of those settings that is just built in. With a drop-down, I use Cloudflare, but you could go to a clean browsing settings right here, the family filter, so you can use a DNS provider that prevents any user of this browser from seeing explicit material. You can go to Quad 9 or OpenDNS, but they do not have the Google DNS. Or you can, have a different custom DNS if you'd like to have that there as well. Also upgrade to HTTPS everywhere. So just throwing that out there. There are some additional security settings that are immediately accessible that are not accessible on other browsers. Talking about how secure this browser was, and I don't know that I actually had it as secure as it could be. But as always, I appreciate you being subscribed, appreciate you watching to the end. Thanks for letting me know in the comment section, what is your preference? Do you like Brave browser? Have you tried Ungoogled Chromium yet? After looking this up, do you want to give it a try? It's open source. I'm not sponsored to talk about this project. I just really, really like it. And I like it so much that I use the mobile version of it called Bromite, the fork of it called Bromite on my ungoogled Android devices. So let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching to the end. You're the reason I make this media. I love your face. Remember to stay private and mind your biz. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and then check out mineyour.biz to sign up for Mine Your Biz Insiders, our exclusive newsletter where we talk about all kinds of mining deals, crypto-oriented deals, security deals, privacy deals, and everything that we can't personally bring you here on the channel, but can talk to you about in email. Also, check out our swag shop where you can see the Mind Your Biz phone. You can also see dedicated sites for Bitcoin, Monero, and other meme coin swag, as well as our friends over at Flux Network. All right, guys, thanks for watching to the end. You know I love your face. Remember to stay private and mind your biz.